Next, it's everyone's favorite video game discussion show. An all-new GameView starts right now.
Hey guys, welcome to GameView for September 2017. I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxie.
And we're here to talk about the first-party Nintendo games that came out this month, specifically on the 3DS and the Switch. So we're gonna jump straight into it here. Our first topic of the day is Pokkén Tournament. And, I think I'm going to let you start off on this, Roxie, because I have quite a bit to say on it.
I'm gonna say this outright. Pokken on the Switch, it's gonna flop. There's a chance it'll flop harder than the Wii U version did. And the reason why is because they did the demo poorly, where you only get a cast of 3 characters to play as, and you only get 15 battles, not 15, opens of the game to play the actual demo. And it's just the fact that we don't know that Nintendo is going to support the actual game past its, story mode. Because a major problem that the Wii U version had, that a lot of people had, was that there was no support for it. You had the arcade version in Japan getting characters like Darkrai, Scizor, Empoleon and all that, and the Wii U version just got nothing. There was just patch updates that made some Pokemon stronger, made others weaker, and stuff like that, and it just, with that kind of sense in how the game isn't getting any kind of support from the company that it came from, it's destined to fail. If that, makes any kind of sense. Because, when you compare it to something like Smash Bros., you had constant updates with new characters being added into both versions of the game. You had the 3DS and the Wii U version both getting brand new characters over time, like Mewtwo, Corrin from Fire Emblem Fates, Roy, Bayonetta, Cloud freaking Strife, It's just that game got so many updates, and it was supported through its lifetime, that it's still being played. Whereas, who do you know is going to play Pokken right now?
Pretty much no one. And that's where I'm actually going to jump in. So, back in, when was it, 2016, that the Wii U version came out?
Yes. I think it was in the middle of April of 2016, because it was shortly after the Twilight Princess HD release.
Okay, so when I first saw Pokken, just to give a bit of insight into this, I thought to myself, okay, this game might be interesting. I'm not really a big fan of the non-turn-based Pokemon games, but I might give this a try. But after I tried the demo for the Wii U version, I just found it wasn't keeping my interest. So I never actually got the game on the Wii U. Hence, we're now at a point where we've got the Switch, and they decided to port the version over, and to me, I hate to say it again, but in a way, it kind of feels like a cash grab, and here's why. Just to the exact same point that you were making, Roxie, a lot of the new characters, a lot of the new features in Pokkén Tournament Deluxe are essentially what came out in the arcade version in Japan months, if not a year ago. And it feels like a way for Game Freak to say, okay, well, we haven't had enough time to create a brand new Pokemon title for the console, so in an attempt to try to get people who like Pokemon to buy a Switch, let's just go ahead. We're going to spend a couple of weeks just porting over the exact same title. We've already got all the new characters. We can just add them into the coding. Throw in a couple new features like the 3-on-3. But other than that, it's essentially the exact same game. Now, I downloaded the demo for the Switch version, and I agree with you 100%. So, first off, I think the demo is poorly done. With the Wii U demo of Pokken, you were limited to the number of times you could launch the software, but then when you were actually in the game, you could play it as often as you wanted. With the Switch demo of Pokken, they actually made it worse by limiting you to 15 battles total, and then completely shutting you out of the demo. Now, yes, I know you can get around that by just re-downloading it from the eShop again, but that's not the point. It's a bad decision overall. Now, as you guys can see, I'm showcasing video footage of me playing the demo. I tried all 3 characters, Pikachu, Empoleon, and Charizard, and I feel the exact same way as I did a year ago. It held my interest for all of 15 to 20 minutes, then I lost interest entirely because the game is ultimately a button masher. I'm not gonna pay $59.99 full retail price for this.
It's just really not worth it. And the only actually new character that they've added to the game is the Decideway. And that's only in the Switch version. So not even the art, that gives it some bit of exclusivity, but not enough to really warrant getting the game, even at half price. I wouldn't even pay, you know, $30 for it. At most, I'll pay $20. And I did get the game on Wii U, and the story mode, I did like it. It just got really repetitive.
The other thing, too, is that people who did get Pokken for Wii U are gonna look at this and are gonna say to themselves, yeah, what's the point? I mean, they probably spent full price getting Pokken, you know, when it first came out back in 2016. To get it was that Shadow Mewtwo amiibo card. And then they played through the entire game for a couple of months, got their fill of it, and now they're looking at the Switch version and they're saying, well, you know, not much has changed overall. Do I really want to pay full price again for, you know, what is 90% of essentially the exact same game? Now, I will give credit where credit is due. I do like the graphics. I think they nailed it on that part, and with some of the voiceovers, you know, actually hearing the Pokemon say their actual voices instead of just like a sound effect like in the 3DS Core series, you know, that's pretty cool too. But there's not enough content here, and again, I feel like, and I don't want to generalize, but usually when a company releases a demo of a game, it's because they want to get a bit of a sense of how many people are going to be converted from actually downloading the demo to purchasing the full version, right? I mean, it's a way to hook you in, to say, okay, try out the demo, and then people say, oh, okay, I like the demo, I'm going to try buying the full version. But everything that they've done with the demo, plus the fact that they haven't done enough to differentiate the game from the Wii U version, it's sort of like saying, well, we don't know how many people are going to be interested, so we're going to release a demo just to see if, you know, we can gauge how many people are going to move over to the full version. But, you know, I agree with you. I don't think the sales figures are going to be there. I don't think there is going to be support over the long haul for this title. And, if anything, I'd say this is just, it's just filler. It's a way for them to say, hey, you know, we got a Pokemon title out on the Switch. Yeah, the core version that we're working on is going to come out in 2018 or 2019, but here's a Pokemon title on the Switch, so if you like Pokemon, get a Switch.
I completely agree with you. It's outright a cash grab for the Pokemon series, and I hate it because, like, I love the Pokemon series. I will admit, I skipped a lot of the side games, but I've also went and bought a lot of the side games as well. I've played, you know, every single Ranger game, Shadows of Almia being my #1 favorite. But for a game like, say, Pokken, I will admit, I played the demo for the Wii U version, and I liked it. I really did. To me, it felt fun. And then it was enough for me to buy the game at full price at that time. And the story mode, voice acting could have been a lot better. It really could have. But I liked what they did with Shadow Mew too. But therein lies a whole different problem I have with Game Freak in general and the Pokemon Company. But it's like, I can't really figure out the words to say. It feels like they're just slapping their own fan base at this point with the release of what feels like a shoddy title. That's what Pokkén Tournament DX feels like. And that's what Pokken felt like for a while, was just a shoddy title. Because after you beat the story, the only thing that's worth doing is playing online, and really, Pokken is designed to be competitive. It's not meant to just like be played online in a casual way. And so it's like, why would I want to play it like this? If I'm gonna play Pokken, I just would like, in a casual setting, I should be able to. I shouldn't feel the need to play ranked if I have to. I shouldn't have to play competitively. And that's exactly what Pokken just felt like it did.
Not only that, but you can see with all the effort that Nintendo is putting into advertising Pokken, right? I mean, having the tournaments on Disney XD, trying to showcase the competitive nature of it. I don't want to say it's a bit much, but it really is. I mean, again, it brings up this feeling of, you know, we don't think sales are going to be strong, so let's try to throw it in as many people's faces as possible, get the word out as quickly as possible, to basically get people to buy it on day one or maybe week one of release, and it'll hold their attention for maybe a couple of months, so we can at least get some money out of the title before we move on to other things. And then, of course, you know, next year when we get that core title on the Switch, that'll be a lot better, hopefully, than what we've run into. I also want to touch base on a couple of other things with this, though. First, why the heck did they limit it to 15 battles? I mean, is Pokken the only game that has a demo on the Switch that actually limits you? Like, every other demo is unlimited, isn't it?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that some demos I've played, they limit you to, like, a certain amount of plays. Like, the Sonic Lost World demo on the 3DS limits you to about, I think, 10 plays on the 3DS, and that's about it.
What about on the Switch, though?
On the Switch, I'm not entirely sure. I don't download many demos on the on my Switch. I've downloaded a couple and maybe played like 5 minutes of one of them, and then just never opened the other.
Because that's something that I just don't understand at all. I mean, what is the point behind that? Especially in this case, where you only have 3 characters, you only have 2 different support sets you can choose from, and there's really no story content in the demo at all. So why are they specifically limiting it to 15 battles and that's it?
I honestly couldn't tell you, because, like, the story mode, that makes sense, because for a multiplayer game with a story, you want to keep that story for the fans to, like, for the people who like Pokken, to keep that fresh for when they get the game. You don't want to, like, ruin the story or let them in on part of the story before it ever comes out.
Yeah.
But if they took, like, a route like, say, Sun and Moon did, and have a demo that's story-based, but nothing to do with the actual game story, that could work. But that only works for a handful of games, and for something like Pokken, where it's got a very, very linear story with, you know, easy to follow points, it's just, there's nothing much you can do about that.
The whole marketing aspect of this has been completely wrong. I'm sorry to say, because I love what they've done with the Switch itself. I think, especially during the E3 presentation, the way they marketed the Switch, you know, what they're doing to try to transition away from the Wii U era, I think everything in that regard has been perfect. But specifically with Pokken, I mean, if it were up to me, I wouldn't put a limit on the number of battles. I mean, especially if you're trying to get as many people to play the demo as possible, and, you know, to be interested enough to actually get the full version, I would just say, okay, I'm giving you these 3 characters, play them all you want, or you know, similar to what happened before, right? I mean, you can limit the number of times you open the software, but then it is unlimited when you're actually in the title, and that way, you know, it would have a better chance of getting people to actually shell out $60. But other than that, I guess the only other point that I would like to make is that I think Pokkén Tournament Deluxe is a missed opportunity, because there's so much that they could have done, especially expanding on the whole concept, just to provide that extra sense of value. You know, not to do like a direct comparison or anything, but even like take a game like ARMS, right? I mean, you've got the 2 versus 2 online matches, 4 people playing. I could actually see that happening with Pokken. They didn't do that. So it's, I mean, it's just small things like that, you know, things that they could have added, just to reinforce the fact that, yeah, it's a deluxe version, but we're gonna add in a bunch new features, make it worth repurchasing the title again at full price, and they didn't, and, you know, here we are. Any last thoughts you have on this, Roxie, before we move on?
I will say Pokken did one thing good that not many fighting demos that I know of do, where they made it so you can play with friends. If I wanted to have a buddy come over and we wanted to play the Pokken demo, I could totally do that. I would give him one Joy-Con, I'd take the other, and we just play it. And that is about the only good thing to come from the Pokken Deluxe demo that the Wii U version did not do for, you know, for its demo.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that.
But other than that, it sort of just bugs me, the whole, I say it's sort of, a lot of things about Pokken bug me, namely the Shadow Mewtwo. And the reason why it bugs me is because story-wise it fit, but it shows us that they still recognize Shadow Pokemon as a legitimate thing that they could always go back to, but what I think they thought was that as long as it's a Shadow Pokemon, that's all we care about. We don't care about the game, just the fact that we have a Shadow Pokemon, which bugs me to no end, because everyone who's heard me speak about Pokemon knows I want another fully turn-based, regular-style Pokemon game with Shadow Pokemon, because that was, to me, one of the best things for Pokemon. And for them to just, like, it's sort of what I said about Game Freak and the Pokemon Company just spitting in our faces. Or slapping us, whatever I said.
Yeah, it feels like they're, again, trying to tap into that nostalgia factor to say, hey, yeah, we remember what happened in Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness, but we don't want to commit to doing a full title, so let's just throw this in, and that way people who remember the old games will say, hey, it's a Shadow Pokemon, let's buy it!
And I'll admit, Shadow Mewtwo is sort of one of my major reasons for getting Pokken, because I thought the idea of Shadow Mewtwo was cool. But, you know, like we've said, wasn't turn-based, and it felt really bland. It felt like a really bland and bad way to just shoehorn a random Shadow Pokemon into the game.
Yeah, I agree. And hence why, like I mentioned, I just believe that it was very important for Game Freak to reinforce the fact, especially during E3, that they were working on a core game, because, you know, when they initially announced, I think it was back in April, that, you know, Pokemon was coming to the Switch, and everyone thought, yeah, we're getting a core title, and then they realized, oh, it's just a port of Pokken, and a lot of people got upset. I think they really did need to come out and have Ishihara, you know, talk about an actual core title, just to emphasize their dedication to the console here. But anyways, final verdict, I am not buying Pokkén Tournament Deluxe. Roxie, are you getting it?
If I get it, it's either going to be bought for me, or I'm going to get it used at a super cheap price.
Okay, sounds good. On to the next topic for this month. We have the re-releases of Pokemon Gold and Silver on the 3DS eShop.
I am really excited for that, because, like, I grew up playing a heck of a lot of Gold and Silver. I can't remember if I ever said this to you, but I have a little story about how I managed to get a copy of Silver, because usually my games were given to me, like on a birthday or Christmas or something. Silver is not one of those games. It sounds sort of creepypasta-ish, but I was on vacation with I was a kid at the time, and I was on vacation, and my mom found this copy of Silver. She was like, "Hey, is this your game?" And I was like, "I don't know. Let me put it in and see." And the character's name was the same as my name, but the starter was different. And so I was just like, yeah, it's mine.
Well,
so,
you want to call that destiny, or...
But I gotta admit, I loved the games at the time. Now if you ask me if I like Gold and Silver, I'd say, heck no, I hate them. I hate them about as much as I hate Gen 4. Nobody wants to hear that rant again.
Oh yeah. Pokemon Silver was the first Pokemon game I ever played, and I still have a lot of very fond memories of it. I played literally hours upon hours of it, just sitting on the couch with my Game Boy Color and the old-fashioned blue worm light, because I was playing, you know, in the dark, and, you know, we didn't have those backlit screens back in the day there, and, it was the game that actually got me into the entire core RPG series as a whole. And will I actually get, you know, Gold or Silver again on the eShop? Probably not, and the only reason being, I still have my copy of Soul Silver from 2010. And I remember playing a heck of a lot out of that too, so I think I'm a little bit exhausted with the Johto region at the moment. But I think it's really great that Nintendo, or at least Game Freak, understands that, you know, all of these titles, I mean, not just in terms of the nostalgia factor, but the fact that a lot of us grew up playing them, you know, just being able to re-release them on the modern consoles and, you know, relive all those great memories, I think that's fantastic.
I gotta be real with you. I actually don't have my copy of Heart Gold or Soul Silver anymore.
Really?
I traded them in long ago, and I kind of regret doing it, because I think, as of this moment, they are the most expensive Pokemon games to get at a retail shop, like Walmart or GameStop. They trade in for, like, I think right now they trade in for like 20, 30, maybe 40 bucks and sell for 50.
Wow.
Just as a testament of how good Heart Gold and Soul Silver was, whatever, it's that hard to get a copy now because they're so expensive, and people just don't feel like paying that price, because I know I sure as heck won't.
I still have my Pokewalker. It doesn't work anymore, and I'm sure as heck not going to spend money on one of those small C, or what do they call it, circular batteries to get it up and running, but I still have everything, you know, from the original box and manuals and all that.
I've still got my box for Heart Gold, and I still have my Pokewalker. I just don't have the games anymore.
The only thing I was disappointed in, when I pre-ordered Soul Silver, remember they were giving those figurines like Ho-Oh and Lugia as a bonus?
Yep.
I pre-ordered my copy from my local game store. It wasn't GameStop or Walmart or anything. They told me that I would get the bonus figurine, but when I showed up to pick up my copy, they didn't have any. That's when I learned never go with, you know, Brand X Game Store ever again. But other than that, I mean, as far as the actual game goes, yeah, I think it was great, and I still love the fact that there are 2 regions, Kanto and Johto. You know, to this date, you know, we still haven't had another core series title with more than 1 region. But yeah, I mean, in terms of these remakes, though, I think it's a great way just to remind everyone, you know what, these games, they really started off the franchise. I mean, yeah, they weren't the first to come out, but, I mean, I generalize it into saying that Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver, and Crystal, those were the 6 that actually kick-started the whole phenomenon. You know, I really can't emphasize, if those games never existed, I would have never become a Pokemon trainer. So, you know, thank God that wasn't the case.
I actually started out with Yellow, so I don't have the same type of attachment, but I do agree with you. If it weren't for Gold and Silver, we wouldn't have Black and White or Colosseum or any of those games.
Oh yeah. Alright, so on that note, are you going to get Gold and Silver from the eShop? I probably am not, but are you going to?
I am.
Are you gonna get both, one or the other, or?
I'm gonna get them both. Just to, you know, show my support, and as a testament to, you know, being all for putting Pokemon remakes like that on the eShop, heck yeah, I'll get them both. And I would get Crystal too if they had put Crystal on there.
That's a good point. So, final note of discussion here, because I do want to bring it up. Why did they not release Crystal?
No telling. I wish they had released Crystal, because that is the one I played the most, and it is the one I have the most attachment to. My level 78 Meganium, the Lugia I caught in a Pokeball, my, I think it was level 63 Suicune. I just had so much fun playing Crystal over Gold and Silver.
Yeah, that's the one part that sort of eludes me at the moment. I don't understand why. It sort of reminds me back in the day was Pokemon Stadium 2, where Gold and Silver worked with the Game Boy Transfer Pack, but Crystal wouldn't. So I don't know if that might play a factor into this as well. I mean, technically it shouldn't, but I mean, if they released Red, Blue, and Yellow all at the same time on the eShop, why not release Crystal at the same time too? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly, and it would be another way for, you know, Game Freak and the Pokemon Company and Nintendo to make more money, but they just didn't.
Mysteries. Alright, and that actually takes us to our last topic of the night, something we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about. I'm not a huge fan of it myself, but I can understand why everyone is going crazy. Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. Just briefly, Roxie, this is, at least from what I've seen with the trailers and the videos, this is a 2D Metroid game, right?
Indeed it is. From what was shown off at E3 and everywhere else, it is a brand new 2D Metroid game on the 3DS. In the style, it's basically a remake of Metroid 2.
Okay. I don't think I've ever gotten into the Metroid franchise myself. Maybe I've got to try some of these games out. Hence why everyone basically went crazy when they announced Metroid Prime 4 coming to the Switch. Yeah, I mean, any specific thoughts on this one?
People finally got what they wanted.
All right.
They have been begging for a remake or a brand new Metroid in the style of the classics. They've been wanting a new one, and so that's what they got. So here's hoping it's good.
Alright, I will agree with you, and hopefully it sort of restores at least a little bit of faith in the hardcore Nintendo fans that Nintendo and Kimishima are listening to what they want, and hopefully that actually continues with some other series and franchises as well.
Like, Earthbound.
Oh yeah. Here we go with Earthbound again. I hear ya. Alright, on that note though, I think we've covered all the major first-party Nintendo releases this month. Anything you want to end on, Roxie?
If you have a Switch, get Sonic Mania, because it is the best game so far of the year.
Awesome. And that's it, we're done for tonight. Remember, you can get the latest announcements and updates on your favorite TOONDISE programs by visiting the all-new TOONDISE.com. Also follow us on Twitter at TOONDISE, #GameView. And if you enjoy what we're doing, you can show your support on patreon.com/TOONDISE and also by hitting that like button. We'll be back at the end of October with another monthly GameView recap update. Until then, I'm Scott.
And I'm Roxie.
And we'll see you later.